She was walking slowly through the mall, taking her time as she glanced into shop windows. She had an elegance about her, a graceful presence that seemed to draw eyes without even trying. Her outfit was stylish but understated, a neat blouse tucked into a light skirt that swayed gently as she walked. I found myself watching her, first her confident stride, then the poised way she carried herself. But what truly caught my attention wasn't her clothes or how she moved, it was her face. I've always been someone who notices faces before anything else. And hers had something magnetic about it, expressive eyes that seemed to hold stories, and a quiet strength in her expression that made it hard to look away. For a moment, a strange thought crossed my mind. I'd seen her before. Somewhere. But I couldn't quite place where. Then she stopped. As if sensing my gaze, she turned and looked directly at me. Her eyes widened in recognition, and the color drained from her face. She lifted a hand to her mouth as if in shock, then turned quickly and hurried toward the exit. I stood there, puzzled. Had I really seen her somewhere before? Or was she reacting to something or someone else? My thoughts turned in circles as I continued my walk through the mall, but the image of her surprised expression stayed with me long after she'd gone. Monday morning arrived, and I was back at work. I had just settled into my office when there was a knock at the door. Mike Davis, someone from another department I only knew in passing, peeked his head in. "Steve, got a minute?" he asked. "Sure, come on in," I said. Mike stepped inside, and I immediately noticed how uneasy he looked. He seemed anxious, his eyes downcast, his whole posture tense. "Hey, Mike," I said. "What's going on? You look like you haven't slept." He sat down across from me and stared at his hands. "It's about Saturday," he muttered. "Saturday?" I repeated, confused. "What about Saturday?" "In the mall," he said quietly. "When you saw me." I blinked. "Saw you? I don't remember seeing you there." Mike looked up at me now, his expression full of discomfort. "You were looking right at me," he said. "Mike, I don't know WH," I started to say. "I just wanted to ask you not to say anything to anyone," he interrupted, his voice trembling. "If people here found out, I'd never hear the end of it. Everyone would laugh." "Mike, what are you talking about?" I asked, and then, like a puzzle snapping into place, it hit me. The girl with the beautiful eyes. That familiar face. "That was you," I said slowly. "You know it was," he replied, almost whispering. "You were staring at me, mouth wide open. Why do you think I ran?" He looked utterly miserable, twisting the end of his tie nervously between his fingers. "Mike, I honestly didn't realize it was you," I said. "I was just admiring someone I thought was a confident, attractive woman. That's all." I hesitated. "You mean you sometimes like to present yourself that way?" "Yes," he admitted quickly. "And please don't joke about it." "You knew it was me?" I looked at him, really looked. And yes, now that he'd said it, I could see it. The eyes. That's what had felt so familiar. I gave a small, reassuring smile. "Mike," I said gently, "take a deep breath. Here, have a coffee." I got up, poured him a cup, and handed it to him before sitting back down on the edge of my desk, my thoughts spinning. How could the nervous man sitting in front of me be the same graceful person I'd seen in the mall? "First of all," I said, "I have no intention of telling anyone. That's not who I am. Second, I did think your face looked familiar, but I dismissed the idea. I never would have guessed. And third," I paused, smiling. "I thought I was looking at a beautiful woman. So yeah, I stared. Was that really you? Because, wow." He searched my face for any sign of sarcasm. "You're not making fun of me, are you?" he asked quietly. "Scout's honor," I said, raising my hand in a mock salute. "If you hadn't walked in and told me yourself, I'd still have no idea. Honestly, you could have fooled anyone." "I wasn't trying to fool anyone," he murmured. "Sorry, maybe captivated is a better word," I said with a small smile. He looked a lot better now, the color had returned to his cheeks, and there was even a hint of a smile on his face. "It was my first time going out," he admitted. "I've always been too scared to step outside while dressed, like that." There was an awkward pause while I searched for the right words. He was clearly nervous about opening up. "How long have you felt this way?" I asked gently. He hesitated, as if weighing whether he could truly trust me. Since I was a kid, he said quietly. I've always been drawn to women's clothes. But it's only been about 6 months since I started fully dressing at home. Saturday was the first time I ever dared to go out. I just wanted to see if I could pass as a woman. Well, Mike, you certainly did, I said honestly. I had no doubt in my mind. You looked completely natural. The effect was immediate. He seemed to sit taller in his chair. The tension faded from his face, replaced by a real smile. You're not joking, right? I was terrified I'd walk in here today and hear people whispering or laughing behind my back. Some of the guys in my department loved to gossip, and I thought if anyone found out. I'd never do that, I said firmly. That's not who I am. The truth was, I had no right to judge anyone. My own life hadn't been spotless, I'd made mistakes too. And if I was being honest, there was something genuinely fascinating about Mike's honesty and courage. The idea of someone exploring a different side of themselves and finding confidence in it was something I could respect. Thanks, Steve, he said gratefully. I really appreciate it. If there's ever anything I can do for you. Don't be silly, I said with a smile. But, you might want to double-check your hands before coming into work. He looked down and noticed a tiny speck of red nail polish still clinging to his little finger. We both laughed as he rubbed at it and headed for the door. Thanks for being so understanding, he said. I feel a lot better now. Don't mention it, I said. Oh, and Mike. He paused at the door, glancing back warily. You really were stunningly beautiful. He blushed, grinned, and gave me a curious look before slipping out of the room. I saw quite a bit of Mike over the next few weeks. We'd stop and chat in the corridors. He'd drop by my office for coffee, and even though we worked in different departments, he always seemed to be around. I liked it. He was easy to talk to, always had a quick joke, and I never quite forgot that image of the woman with the unforgettable eyes. One Friday evening, he popped his head into my office. There's a few of us going to the pub after work. Wanna come? I hesitated. I hadn't been out socially in years. Nights out had slowly slipped out of my routine. No thanks, Mike. I've got loads too. Oh, come on, Steve. I'd really like your company. Most of them are real idiots, and I need a friend. That word, friend, caught me off guard. I didn't really have any close friends, and if he considered me one, then maybe I needed to show up. I laughed. All right, but only for an hour. Great, he said, grinning. See you at 5. He was right about his colleagues. They were a bunch of loudmouths. Wannabe yuppies swapping office gossip. Who was dating who might be getting fired, who was having lunch with the boss. None of it was kind. Mike leaned over and whispered, You see what would have happened if they'd found out? They'd tear me apart. I nodded. You work with this lot? I murmured. They're impossible. I know, he said under his breath. That's why you're here, moral support. No one's spoken to me yet, I said. Count yourself lucky, he grinned. But hey, if you want to stir the pot, go ahead. I smiled, thinking for a moment. Then, on impulse, I leaned forward and said loudly, You know, I heard a rumor that someone in facilities has a very unusual hobby. The table went silent. Really? One of them asked, eyes wide. Oh yeah, I said, lowering my voice theatrically. Apparently, it involves themed weekends and a lot of creativity. The group erupted into excited chatter, each one trying to guess details or add their own twist. Mike shot me an amused look. Who's that supposed to be? He asked. No idea, I grinned. I just made it up. We both burst into laughter, the kind that leaves you breathless and wiping tears from your eyes. It was one of those moments that cement a friendship. That's why I asked you to come, he chuckled between laughs. You saved me tonight. Then, more softly, you're kind of making a habit of it. I met his gaze, and for just a second, I saw that same person from the mall again. Knock it off, I said with a grin. I haven't laughed this much in years. How many years? He asked quietly. Come on, I said, grabbing my glass and heading toward the bar. We found a couple of stools tucked away at the quieter end and ordered another round. Lots of years, I admitted with a wry smile, taking a slow sip. That sounds like a long story, he said gently. Not really, I replied. My wife left. After that, I stopped going out, stopped connecting with people. I fell into a routine, work, home, screens. That was my whole world for a long time. As the evening wore on, our voices softened until it felt like the rest of the bar had faded away. The noisy chatter of the yuppie crowd around us became a distant hum. To me, it was just the two of us, talking honestly. I told him about my lonely marriage, the quiet years afterward, and how disconnected I'd felt from the world. And he shared parts of his story too, how he'd grown up an only child, raised by his mother, and how difficult it had always been for him to talk to women. "I'm not into men," he said quickly. "I like women just like anyone else. But when it comes to actually speaking to them, my words never come out right. Maybe that's part of why Shoo," I said, as one of the younger guys from his office walked over. The kid clearly wanted to join us. "Shouldn't you be heading home? Your mom might start worrying," I teased. He glanced nervously at his oversized watch. "Oh, right. Time for me to go. Bye, see you Monday." And he practically sprinted out of the bar. Mike burst into laughter. "You're terrible," he chuckled. "That was one of the better ones." "Then he needs to find better company," I said with a grin. I glanced at my watch, 10 o'clock. We had been sitting there, just talking, for over 4 hours. I couldn't believe it. The easy conversation had broken through something in me that I hadn't even realized was frozen. We stayed another hour after that, talking about everything: music, books, travel, nature. We shared the same dislike of politics and sports, and by the end of the night, we had built the beginnings of a real, trusting friendship. We grabbed a late-night meal before heading home, and when I finally walked through my door, I felt lighter, like a fresh breeze had swept through my life. From then on, we met often. Drinks, dinner, and long conversations became part of our routine. We'd end the night with coffee at one of our places, and more often than not, our conversations turned to the subject he had once been so afraid to talk about: his cross-dressing. "I've always felt like I should have been born a girl," he told me one night. "For me, it's not just the clothes. At first, it was the softness of them, the way certain fabrics feel, but over time, it became about expression, about feeling beautiful, about finally seeing a version of myself that felt right." I remembered the woman I had seen that day in the mall, and nice didn't begin to cover it. She had been stunning. "I spent months experimenting," he continued, "finding the right makeup, studying tutorials, figuring out what styles worked best for my shape. Clothes were the easy part. I just chose what I liked to see on women and tried to match that." The power of the internet," I said. "You either love it or hate it, but it always gives you what you're looking for." "Did you find what you were looking for?" he asked, his tone suddenly more serious. I hesitated, feeling a little exposed. "I guess I was just trying to fill the loneliness. I looked for distraction online, conversations, people to talk to, maybe a bit of fantasy. But it never really worked. Honestly, Mike, talking to you, connecting with someone real, it's the first time in a long time I felt like I was actually getting better."